The topic I decided to write about was, or is, the years leading towards the end of the civil rights movement and the years following the end of the civil rights movement. I decided to do this after reading I forgot what week it was, where we read that slaves were still being enslaved legally after the Emancipation Proclamation following the Civil War. So it got me thinking, after the civil rights movement, how much, how many civil rights were actually listened to, were actually allowed by the population for the blacks in the United States. Now, I also chose this topic because a neighbor from down the street of mine, growing up, we would barbecue with them, with friends and other people in the neighborhood, and he would always tell us, brother, back in the '60s, back in the '70s, things were a lot different, and this and that. So right when I decided what topic I was going to write, it automatically clicked in my head who I was going to interview, who was going to be my primary source. I looked up a few other ones online, nothing that really stood out to me that caught my attention, so I decided to go with him. I spoke with him, and he agreed to let me interview him, and most importantly, agreed to tell it how it is. That way, there's no filtering of any type, no censorship of any type, and he will give me a good idea, hopefully, of how life was late '60s, early '70s, following the civil rights for not only the activists, people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. We all know how life was for them, how life was for the people who were activated, who protested for for rights. We know how they were hosed. We know how they were arrested. But how did this impact a 8, 9, 10-year-old living in the United States during that time? Someone who I'm sure is grateful that it happened, but someone who wasn't involved during the movement, who was just a normal average Joe living his life. So I hope to have a good understanding, and I hope to give the rest of the class a good understanding of how life was for those type of people during that time. Now that most of us already know how life was for the protesters and the Martin Luther Kings of that time. I think it'd be great to know how it impacted during that time the average person, your average 10-year-old, 15-year-old, 20-year-old. So hopefully it will give us a good understanding, and yeah, I'd appreciate any feedback that you guys might have. I'm open for any feedback that you guys might leave. Thank you.